Hello, everyone. Welcome to the debut episode of the Daily Betslip. BetSided's new daily live stream. We're going live Monday to Friday on a daily basis at 5 p.m. Eastern. Today, I'm joined by Peter Dewey. It'll be a couple of we'll have different pairings of the BetSided crew each day, so don't worry, you won't have to get sick of seeing my face and my voice every single day. But today, the debut episode, it is myself. It is Peter Dewey. We have a lot in store. Jam-packed show. We got picks for today. We're going to talk a little bad beat of the day as well. Some futures. We're going to talk a little NBA playoffs, a little NHL playoffs that are going to start next week. Jam-packed show. Be sure to head over to YouTube so you can live comment on the show. We want to hear your picks for the day. If you have any questions about any picks for tonight, you can ask us. We will bring up your comments and talk about them, discuss them. And we do have a Twitter poll and a YouTube poll, which should be getting posted right now. It is for tonight's game of the night, which we are going to dive into quite a bit. It is the Nets. It is the Celtics. You tell us who to pick. And at the end of the show, depending on the poll results, myself and Peter will be putting our own money on who you tell us to bet on, which is good for me because I'm not an NBA guy. So I need a little bit of help with tonight's game from you guys. But Peter, thank you for being here, my friend. How are you doing? How are you feeling about tonight's slate?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited for tonight's slate. Excited for the maiden voyage we got going on here. So, going to be a lot of bets to dive into. A lot of great games tonight, especially in the NBA playoffs. So excited to get it going, man. This should be really fun.
And I'm excited to pick your brain because, like I said, I'm not an NBA guy. So I'm going to be talking to you about especially the game of the night, maybe some other NBA playoff things, including one series that you kind of talked about when we were on a live stream last week with myself and you and Donovan. So we're going to dig into that a little bit more. But once again, head over to YouTube. If you're watching this on Twitter, go to YouTube so you can live comment. We'll bring up your comments on the show, and we will discuss them live. Any questions for tonight? Any of your own picks? I'd like to hear your guys' picks and all that good stuff. But let's start off with a little bad beat of the day, Peter. A lot of sports going on. A lot of bad beats left and right, but there's one that we wanted to bring up specifically. Last week, Major League Baseball, first 5 innings, it was the D-backs. Madison Bumgarner, 1-0 lead. So, of course, if you don't know what a first 5 inning is, the team you bet on only needs to be winning after the first 5 innings. He retired the first 2 batters, so they only needed 1 more out. Induced a pop fly up into the infield to retire the side, but instead, Marte just dropped the ball. Tough beat. Dropped the ball, and then right after that, they scored. They scored on a double. Escobar scored to tie the game 1-1. And then Cesar Hernandez followed up with a double of his own, which then gave Nationals the lead. So not only did you not win the bet, you could have pushed the bet if it stayed at 1-1. All of a sudden, it's 2-1 Nationals. You lose when you're up 1-0 in the bottom of the 5th with a 1-0 lead. That's tough. MLB season is here, and I feel like more than any other sport, you get bad beats in Major League Baseball. I don't know if you're on that, Peter, or not. Do you have a bad beat in mind that was one of your worst bad beats of all time?
I wasn't on that one, but that one was tough, man, because it was like the Luis Castillo pop-up, if you remember that one in the Yankees game a long time ago now. It was literally that bad of a drop. Like, he was under and he just dropped. It's like 1 in a 100 chance that a Major League Baseball player drops that ball. It's just terrible, terrible luck. Honestly, off the top of my head, don't have like a bad beat. I guess the NBA playoffs, the worst one I think I had so far in the playoffs this year is I had Trae Young over 38.5 points, rebounds, assists in game 2 against the Heat. And he had 38 with 4 minutes to go, 3:30 to go, missed a layup, and then did not attempt a shot the rest of the game and landed on 38. So that was a tough one to swallow. I thought that one was a guarantee when he got to the 38. So that was probably my worst one of the playoffs so far.
One of my worst ones, because just on the topic of Major League Baseball, I feel like I have a top one for each sport. Major League Baseball is a few years ago now, and it's a popular bet now is no runs in first inning. I was dabbling on it back then, and because of this one game, I didn't bet on it again until this year. Who was it? I think it was the Mets. I remember the pitcher was Bartolo Colon. It was big, sexy pitching. And it was the same kind of situation as the one we just described. 2 outs, bottom of the 5th. Mets were winning, or whatever team he was on. I think it was the Mets. and it was a grounder to him, and Big Sexy picked up the ball, and he just had to underhand it to the first baseman, and it was a late release, and he underhanded way over his head. The guy reached. He actually got to second because of the error, and the next batter came up and doubled to bring the runner in, and that was it. And I had a larger bet than I would like to admit on that game, and it broke my heart. Big Sexy did me wrong. So
that's brutal. That is
tough.
brutal.
That's baseball. I feel like it happens more than any other sports. Ben Heisler brings up already a ballsy move to back Bumgarner to keep a lead. To lose it like that was brutal. I feel like he's been having a solid season, though, hasn't he?
He's been good to start. He's been good to start
solid
this year.
Start.
Last year he got rocked. I think last year was kind of like he had some really rough outings, but he's been good to start this year. The Diamondbacks not so much, but hey, that's how it goes.
And Cody Williams brings up, we're going to get into our picks here in a little bit, but he says, big fan of the value in Giants money line against the Brewers. Burns starting for Milwaukee, but bullpen is depleted with Williams and Hader pitching each of the last 2 days. Good points there with the bullpen. That's something I got to do with my handicapping, is look to see when these bullpen, like when the top guys in the bullpen have like most recently pitched. And the Giants, once again, people thought that the Giants weren't going to be good this year. And once again, they're off to a hot start, 11-5 so far this year. So, hey, something's working in San Francisco. I don't know what it is.
They're a solid young team. They got Sam Long going on the bump today, though. I don't know if I love that pitching matchup against Corbin Burns, but I guess if they can keep it close and get to that bullpen, I don't hate the Giants. I mean, the Giants are scoring runs. I think they're have like a plus 38 run differential right now, which is just absolutely nuts for 16 games into the season. So obviously they're doing something right over there. They've built that team very well. A lot of young guys, and then obviously the vets like Brandon Crawford still there. So
big underdog too. Plus 170 tonight against the Brewers. So if you want a big dog tonight, Giants might be the play. Ben Heisler responds, smoke and mirrors about Madison Bumgarner. Entered Sunday with a 10-9 BB/K ratio. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Small sample size already, especially with pitchers. They've pitched maximum 3 starts so far. So we're going to see a little regression from some guys and some positive regression from some others. Let's move on to our best bets. Let's give the people what they want right now, Peter. We got a stacked slate of action. Kind of stacked. I mean, we got NBA, we got MLB. Only one NHL game, though. I do have a pick for that NHL game. But we have 3 best bets each. Let's start with you, Peter. And you're going a lot of player props tonight, I'm noticing. So hit me with your first one.
Yeah, I got 3 player props. I'm going to start with my Walker Buehler prop in baseball, since we've been talking about baseball. I got him over 5.5 strikeouts tonight. And Walker Buehler, I backed him on this prop earlier this season. He didn't hit it. He hasn't gone over this number all year, so I'm not going to say like he's been on a crazy run where he's going to hit this. But you look at the matchup tonight, it's really good for him. They're facing the Diamondbacks, who we just talked about, who are 28th in baseball in strikeouts per game. They're striking out 9.44 times per game. And 2 of the games that Buehler missed this prop, he had to face the Rockies, who are top 10 in strikeout percentage, and the Braves, who are in the top 20. So not exactly the best matchups to start the year. The bigger thing that I've noticed with Walker Buehler, and you talk about small sample size to start this year, and a lot of these guys with the shortened spring training, they didn't really get to ramp up. So these first couple starts are kind of like spring training starts a little bit for them. Walker Buehler in his career has never had a strikeouts per 9 below 9.2. This year, he started the year at 6.3. So I think he's due for a little bit of positive regression there. It's just a matter of time till he gets back to the mean. And then with the fact you couple that with playing a team that strikes out a lot like the Diamondbacks, I think he can get this. And obviously plus 115, you got some pretty solid odds on that as well. So I like him to go over that number tonight.
Yeah, I like that one quite a bit. I'm big on Walker Buehler. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I have a preseason bet on him to win the NL Cy Young Award. But why don't we just stay with the same game? You were just talking about Walker Buehler. I'll give out my pick for that game. It is the Dodgers -1.5, -120 against the Diamondbacks to stick in the Major League Baseball here. Dodgers have 11 wins this season. All 11 have come by at least 2 runs. So in their wins, they're undefeated on the run line, which is a crazy trend for all 11 wins to be at least by 2 runs. Like I assume you'd be profitable if you bet money line every game. But if you bet run line in every single Dodgers game this year, even with like the 5 losses or whatever they have, you'd be up a little pretty penny. And now they're taking on, I think, might be one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball in the Arizona Diamondbacks. If you look at some stats, Dodgers are first in runs scored per game. Diamondbacks are 28th. Dodgers are second bullpen ERA. Diamondbacks are 28th. I mean, I could list stats for days. Dodgers are going to be in the top 5. Diamondbacks are going to be in the bottom 5. And like you kind of mentioned there with Walker Buehler, I think we're going to see some positive regression from him. This is one of those trends. It reminds me of the Blackhawks first period over trend a few years ago. 11 straight wins the Dodgers have covered the run line. Let's ride that trend. I know it's minus 120. It's not the greatest feeling to bet a run line at minus odds, but I'm going to ride it, man. We got probably the best team in Major League Baseball playing against one of the worst.
Yeah, so easily to start the season. Best team in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, they're the World Series favorites, and now they're just killing everyone that they beat. So I'm thankful that the Blue Jays are not in the National League. Dodgers -1.5, minus 120 for my first best bet of the night. Peter, go ahead with your second.
Yeah, second one, going to the NBA. This is my bread and butter. We're going to start with Jalen Brunson over 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists, -125. Jalen Brunson, man, you talk about people who have made themselves some money in these NBA playoffs. Jalen Brunson, there was a report today that the Mavs could have signed him to a $55 million deal. He's probably going to make close to double that in this offseason in free agency. He's been playing so well. This postseason averaging over 29 points per game. And yes, Luka Doncic is back in the lineup, which is why this line has moved down so far compared to where it was in games 1 through 3. But Jalen Brunson, you look at his last game, Game 4 with Luka Doncic in the lineup, and he played pretty well in that matchup. He ended up finishing with 31 points, rebounds, assists. He had 23 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. He's played over 35 minutes in every single game in this series. And if you go back to the regular season when he was mainly playing with Doncic, he averaged 25 points, rebounds, and assists per game. So I think, honestly, at 27.5, with the way he's been scoring the ball, he's taking a ton of shots, took 18 shots, even with Doncic in the lineup. 27.5 is a little bit of a discount. He might get you almost all the way there in points alone. And he's a very solid passer, averaged almost 5 assists a game during the regular season. So love this number against a Jazz team that hasn't really defended anyone on the perimeter of this series. Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell and Jordan Clarkson, they can't defend. If Royce O'Neal isn't guarding you and he's probably going to draw Luka Doncic, you're getting to the rim at will against this Jazz team. So love this prop for Jalen Brunson.
As I mentioned, you're kind of going player prop heavy today. Is that kind of a coincidence, Pete, or have you found more success betting player props in the NBA?
Down the stretch of the NBA season, I've definitely found a lot more success with player props. My run in March, I think I was like 20 over 500, and it was like heavily player prop concentrated. But it's just because there's, especially in the playoffs, man, like I was talking about this with Ben on Bet and Breakfast yesterday. Like some of these short spreads are really, really tough because you're getting, especially when it's like the road team is favored, because you're like, yeah, like last night, the Suns probably should win, but is it worth it to back the Pelicans +2, or do I just take the Pelicans to win? Like I don't love that. Like I feel like you're really putting yourself, like you're banking on a close game, and it's just, that doesn't happen in every single playoff game. So I found when I don't have like a clear feel on the game, which I really don't in this Mavs game, since we've only seen one game with Luka in the lineup, I kind of felt like player prop, see if I could find some value. And I thought Brunson was one of the best guys on the board for that.
Now, I will remind people who are watching, especially those watching on Twitter, head over to YouTube. You can live comment. I want to know your guys' best bets for today's action. Yes. So let us know, especially in the NBA tonight as well, because like I said, I need some NBA plays here. Let's get into, actually, I have another MLB pick. One I'm not giving out on the show, though. I tweeted it out about an hour ago, which is my underdog Monday money line pick of the day. Rangers first 5 +120. Not going to get into that pick. Go watch the video. Crew Boy on Twitter at Danny5815538 says 0 chance of this hitting. I want to say, when people say my picks have 0% chance of hitting, I love it. I feel like that gives me even more confidence. That like increases the chance of it hitting by about 10%. But shout out to him. If he's watching, bet against me then. See what happens. Yeah. So that is one pick. I'm not going to break that down. Go watch the video if you want to see why I like that pick. But I am going to stick in Major League Baseball, and I am actually going to stick with an underdog. Like I said, I gave one out earlier. I have another underdog in Major League Baseball. Guardians +104 versus Angels. Still feels weird to call them the Guardians, to be honest. I haven't fully gotten used to that. But both offenses in this game have been extremely hot, top of the majors in most offensive categories. Angels, though, one specific stat that kind of has me a little bit concerned is their strikeout rate. 24.5% of their at-bats result in a strikeout, which is something like 28th or something in the majors. To me, and I could be wrong, that kind of indicates that we're going to see some regression from the Angels. I feel like it's kind of hard to be striking out that often, but be able to keep up the offensive production that the Angels have had, especially tonight because they're facing Shane Bieber, who's one of the best strikeout throwers in all of Major League Baseball. And another big difference between these two teams and why I like the Guardians as an underdog in this spot, their bullpen has been a lot better, bullpen ERA of 3.73 compared to the Angels bullpen of 4.37. So if you don't like, to the guy who said that my pick sucked for tonight on the Rangers, if you don't like that underdog pick, there's another little underdog pick for you. Guardians, I believe right now at WinBet, they're plus 104. So there's my second pick. How do you like that one, Peter?
I like that one a lot, actually. I was going to say I like Shane Bieber tonight in this matchup. I believe Michael Lorenzen's going for the Angels. He kind of got roughed up his last start. So I think this is a spot for the Guardians. The Guardians have impressed me to start this year, man. Like, they're hitting the ball well. I did not think they were going to be good because they have kind of mailed it in the last couple of off seasons. But they're impressive to start the year. I think they're 7-8. They got a positive run differential. Like, not a bad underdog at all.
Ben's chiming again. Sportsbooks need the Guardians tonight. 84.3% of the money on the Angels. Nice little tidbit there. A little fade the public play there as well. If you like underdogs, if you like to fade the public, jump on me with the Guardians. Although I will say yesterday's performance was rough, but you're going to get a few of those throughout the MLB season. Yankees crushed them.
Hey, my Yankees, your Jays, top two teams in the AL East. Hey, I mean, no big deal. No big deal.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Peter, your third and final best bet for tonight, a third player prop. Hit me with it.
Yes, sir. So we're taking Pascal Siakam over 24.5 points, plus 100. So a little even money action on this one. And Siakam, he's only gone over this one time in this series, had 34 points in game 4. But Fred VanVleet is out tonight for the Raptors with a hip injury. I think that's going to mean a lot more touches for Siakam. He actually had a quote after game 3 that our Ben Heisler pointed out, and I included in one of my stories, is that he noticed after watching game 3, he only took 5 shots in the second half. He's like, I got to be more aggressive. Well, he came out and he took a lot of shots in game 4, led to a Raptors win. I think that he can bounce back in this spot again and put up another big game. He's taken 19, 16, 20, 18 shots over the first 4 games of the series. And then you look at this Philly team, Joel Embiid's banged up. He's got a torn ligament in his thumb. They might go after him on the defensive end, see if he's willing to, muck it up and try and block some shots there. And the other thing with Siakam, he has the ball in his hands a lot more than you would expect for a power forward. He's actually facilitated pretty well in this series as well. So I think 24.5, it's not the easiest prop to hit, but you're getting plus money on it. And with VanVleet out, somebody's got to score for Toronto. So love Pascal there.
Do the Raptors have any chance in the world of coming back and winning the series, being the first team down 0-3 to win?
As someone who bet on the Raptors to win this series before it started, I hope so. It all starts with tonight, though. They got to set the tone tonight because they got blown out basically both games in Philly. They just really didn't compete. So I think if they get this thing back to Toronto, we probably see a game 7. I don't know if they win a game 7, but it starts tonight. They cannot come out lackluster tonight like they did in game 1 because that was ugly. And then game 2, they just kind of got outclassed in the second half. So it'll be interesting. 3-0 is going to be really hard to come back from, but if Embiid's really this hurt, man, it's possible. It's definitely possible.
Fingers crossed. That'd be an all-time collapse. My final best bet for tonight, I'm looking at the only hockey game of the night. I don't know who sets the schedule for the NHL, but they need to be put on trial because this is like the second or third week in a row. They have one game on Monday night and then like 8,000 games on Tuesday. Not only that, tonight's game is between two teams that nobody cares about because they've been eliminated from the playoffs like for 2 months. But it's hockey, and I'm going to bet on it. It's the Blackhawks hosting the Flyers. Blackhawks are minus 135 favorites. I'm going to back them as home favorites. I'm not big on backing favorites in games between two bad teams. Usually my general rule of thumb is, especially late in the season when two bad teams play, take the underdog. But over the last 25 games, the Blackhawks outrank the Flyers in Corsi percentage, expected goals for, expected goals against, shooting percentage. Basically every single category, they're the better team and they're at home. So minus 135, it's not a big price. You're not laying a lot of juice, but I think that's the way to go. So if you're craving some NHL action, I think the Blackhawks are the way to go tonight, minus 135 at home to the Flyers. I have bet on it, but I will be honest, I will not watch a second of it because who cares about the Blackhawks and Flyers in the final week of the regular season? They've been eliminated for 2 months. Instead, I'm going to watch either some baseball or maybe I'll even dabble a little NBA playoffs tonight.
Yeah, there
we go. That is our best 3 bets for tonight. We still have picks coming up, though, and if at any time throughout the show you want to give your picks or ask any questions about to us about any other games for tonight, let us know in the live chat on YouTube. But the next segment, futures and fades. I'm excited for this because my opinion, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for. But Peter, we're going to start with you. Let's talk a little Pelicans and Suns.
Yes, sir.
Because last week it was a live stream with myself, you, and Donovan, and you two got in a little bit of an argument whether or not the Pelicans had a chance to win the series against the Suns after Devin Booker went down with an injury. Pelicans are now plus 240 to win the series. Is it 2-2? It's 2-2 now, right?
2-2.
The series?
Yes, sir. 2-2.
Series is tied up at 2-2. I wouldn't say you're right so far, but at least it's 2-2. I mean, they're plus 240. Talk to me about this series, both for the Pelicans to win the series and how you feel about the Suns.
Yeah, I placed a very small bet on the Pelicans to win the series today. And it's really just comes down to, I don't want to Donovan made some great points when we talked about this last week, but my big thing when the Suns lost Devin Booker, they are a completely different team without him. Their offensive rating with him would be the best in the NBA. In the 14 games that he's missed, their offensive rating drops to just over 109 points per 100 possessions. That puts them around 23rd, 24th in the NBA. So that's a huge drop-off to go from the best offense to a bottom 10 offense. And we saw it last night in Game 4, and this is why I have a future on the Suns to win the title, but it was kind of stringent on if Devin Booker was going to play. The reason why I would fade them in this spot and why I think there's some value on the Pelicans here, you look at last night's game, Chris Paul only had 4 points. Chris Paul is not the same player that, you were relying on to get almost 20 points a night. It's just not his game anymore. He's older. It's not the way he wants to play. That's why Devin Booker is so important to this team. And you look at the role guys, and the role guys played great in Game 3. You had a huge game from DeAndre Ayton, who's not a role guy, but you had a huge game from him. Mikal Bridges had a big game. They got a big game out of Landry Shamet off the bench. You look at yesterday's game, and Mikal Bridges shot 4 for 11, scored only 8 points. Jay Crowder only had 11 points. Cam Johnson only had 13 points. Chris Paul only scores 4, and the only bench guy in double figures was JaVale McGee with 14. So if the role guys don't play above their pay grade, this Pelicans team, people are sleeping on Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum might be the 2 best players left in the series now that Devin Booker's out. And Brandon Ingram is 100% the best player in the series. He's been fantastic. So I think playing Game 5 in Phoenix, we're going to really see if this Pelicans team is for real, because if they get blown out in Phoenix just because, maybe they were only Game 4 was a case of being at home, but this Pelicans team, they are not to be messed with. Defensively, they have a lot of guys. Herb Jones was fantastic on Chris Paul last night. Jose Alvarado is a great defender. They have a bunch of different guys who can match up. And not to go on a long droning thing, but I mean, at plus 240, I get the Suns are a 1 seed. They're not the same team without Devin Booker. They went 8-6 without him this year. And then with him on the roster this year, they went 56-12. So they lost a third of their games in the 14 games that he missed. This isn't we lost this guy. Well, it's not like the Bucks losing Chris Middleton where you still have Giannis. They lost their Giannis. Devin Booker is their best player no matter what the Chris Paul fans will tell you. Chris Paul is a great player and he's extremely important to the team, but they need Devin Booker scoring to win. So I do not hate the Pelicans at all to win this series. I would not be shocked if they upset them.
Can Chris Paul not carry the Suns past the Pelicans here?
I don't think he can. I just don't think scoring wise he can. It can't be all on him to score. He had a great scoring game in Game 1, and they almost blew the lead in Game 1. That he kind of carried them to the finish line. Then he only scored 17 points in Game 2. They lost. Then in Game 3 he had a great scoring game and they won. Then in Game 4 he scores 4 points and they lost. So if he's not having a great scoring game, they haven't had the help around him to get there. Their ideal sweet spot is Chris Paul gets 15 to 20 points, and then he's also dishing out double-digit assists, and other guys are getting going. But so far in the series, Jay Crowder hit his first three-pointer of the series last night. 4 games. This is a guy who shot 35% from 3 on the season. He was averaging almost 2 makes a game on the season. So, that's what I'm saying. Their role guys have to step up, and so far they haven't. So it's a question of, do you bank on star players like McCollum and Brandon Ingram, or are you banking on Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges and Landry Shamet to play really good for the next 3 games? I would put my money with Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum, especially since you're getting plus 240 odds on it.
If the Clippers won the play-in game, what's the series looking like right now?
Man, that's why I had, this is the exact scenario why I had that Clippers future, because I thought the Clippers were going to get in from the play-in. I think it would at least be 2-2, especially if Paul George was playing. It would be very, very interesting. And again, I would think the Clippers would have a legit shot to win. It's just they lose Devin Booker, and this is just not the same team. It goes for anybody who loses a star player, but him most importantly for this team offensively. You go from the best offense in the league to bottom 10. That is a gigantic drop-off. Nobody can weather that storm without other guys stepping up, and so far they haven't.
Let us know in the chat if you agree with Peter's take there about the Pelicans. I mean, once again, I keep saying this. I'm not an NBA guy. It seems to me like plus 240 based on the box scores I'm looking at. It seems like that's a good bet. We'll see, though. We'll see. I know there are a lot of Chris Paul fans out there that would argue with that and say that he's going to carry them. Because you didn't even put Chris Paul as a top 2 player left in the series right now.
I like CJ McCollum as a scorer right now, I think is better than Chris Paul. Like Chris Paul, there's the value of Chris Paul, like his importance of being on the floor obviously matters. But like I forgot who it was who said it. It might have been, I don't know if it wasn't LeBron, but there was somebody who said like a big famous athlete that that this Pelicans have the 2 best players left in the series. I kind of agree with that. Like the Chris Paul difference is like Chris Paul's bad game last night was horrible. He scored 4 points. Like CJ McCollum is not going out there and scoring 4 points. I just think the margin of error for Chris Paul is a lot thinner than it needs to be for the Suns to win the series.
Ben asks, bigger disappointment in the first round, Peter, Nets or Suns?
Nets for sure. Nets, no question about it. And we'll talk more about it when we get to the game of the night. But the fact that they haven't even won a game yet, that way worse than the Suns. Suns lost Devin Booker. The Nets didn't lose anybody. They just stink. That's what it comes down to.
All right, we're going to switch over to hockey here. Let's talk a little hockey, Peter. With the NHL playoffs starting on Monday, the regular season for the most part ends this Friday. Actually, I looked at the schedule. There is a game against the Jets and the Kraken on Sunday. It must be a makeup game, I think. I think it is from a few weeks ago. A snowstorm. That game's meaningless, though. So effectively, the regular season ends on Friday. People are going to start looking at the playoffs. They're going to start breaking down their brackets. We may or may not have a little bracket challenge. You'll be enter with BetSided to keep an eye out for that. But I'm here to tell you all right now, don't bet on the Avalanche to win the Cup. Don't fill them out to win the Cup on your bracket. Don't bet on them with your money. Don't make little side wagers with your friends. If anything, bet against the Avalanche to win the Cup. I know they're the betting favorites right now to win the Cup at WinBet. There's something like plus 325 or plus 325. There it is on the graphic. Do not do it. Don't even fill them in to go to the Stanley Cup final in your hockey bracket. I'm going to list a few stats. I'm not going to get too deep into stats because I'm just a stats nerd. I got to list them off here. 7th in Corsi percentage, 10th in expected goals per 60 minutes, 12th in expected goals against per 60 minutes, 13th in high danger scoring chances, 24th in high danger scoring chances against, and then 6th in both shooting percentage and save percentage. Those are not the numbers of a team that is going to win the Cup or that deserves to be the far and away Stanley Cup betting favorite at plus 325. Now, the big counter argument that a lot of people would have to that is that, they have an easy path to the Stanley Cup final. The West is weak, which is, yes, the West is weak, but the Avalanche aren't even the best team in the West. The Calgary Flames are a much better team than the Colorado Avalanche if you look at them statistically. The Wild might even be a better team coming out of the Central Division. So I don't buy into this hype whatsoever. But the point about, yes, they have an easier path because they're in the Western Conference, that would be one of my main arguments about why their record is overinflated. They've been beating up on bad teams all season. If they're in the Eastern Conference, especially like the Atlantic Division, they'd be the 5th or 6th best team in the Eastern Conference. So I'm not going to call them frauds. I'm not going to use the F word because frauds to me is a team that's ranked high but is actually not a bad team. Is actually a bad team. I'm not going to say the Avalanche are bad, but they certainly shouldn't be the betting favorites. And I would highly recommend you do not bet on them to win the cup, and do not do what a lot of public people are going to do, which when they fill the brackets, they're going to put the Colorado Avalanche to win the Stanley Cup. They will not win the Stanley Cup. So go ahead and fade the Colorado Avalanche coming up in the NHL postseason.
I got a question for you. What do you think their ceiling is then in the Western Conference? How far do you think they go before they get bounced?
I mean, I think in theory they could win the West. I wouldn't be shocked. They're definitely not. They're going to lose to whoever comes out of the East if they do. I think they lose in the second round, though. I think they lose to the winner of the Blues and the Wild.
Okay.
I'm not a big believer in the Blues, but the Blues are such a good shooting team. Like they've been first in the NHL almost all season in shooting percentage. They make up for a lot of their other deficiencies. I think the Wild are a much more complete team. I especially think if the Wild get past the Blues, I think the Wild beat the Avalanche in the first round. And the Avalanche will be playing either the Stars or the Predators likely in the first round. They'll probably get past them because neither of those two teams are really offer much resistance. But my kind of bold prediction would be that they get eliminated in the second round to the winner of the Wild and Blues series.
I don't hate it. Fade the favorite. I don't hate it.
Fade the favorite, man. There's too much other value out there. Mostly in the Eastern Conference, I think the Carolina Hurricanes, who I think are around 9-1 right now to win. Maybe they're a little bit higher now, but I think they have 9-1. I think they have the best value on the board right now. They have an easier path than the Atlantic Division teams who are going to beat up each other. Obviously, as long as they secure the Metro, which they should over the Rangers, I think they have a 2-point lead now with a couple games to go, and they have the tiebreaker, I believe, on them as well. They should play a wild card team in the first round, so whatever team comes out of the East, I think, is going to win the cup. And I think the Flames are the best team in the West. So we'll see how that shakes out. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. With my luck, the Avalanche will go on and win the cup easily. But
listen, you're not the NBA guy. I'm not the NHL guy. I might just tail your picks in the NHL playoffs, and we'll ride together. That this might have to be what we got to do.
I love it. All right. Let's talk about we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this. The game of the night, my friend. It is the Boston Celtics against the Brooklyn Nets. Game 4. Obviously, there are other, like the Jazz and the Mavericks are bigger in the sense that the series is tied, and this could be the end of the Nets. But I mean, you got the star power, you got the story about the Nets. I think this is the game of the night here. I'm just going to start off with a very simple question. Can the Nets survive and force a Game 5, or do you think it's over tonight in Game 4?
Personally, I think it's over tonight. I bet the Celtics money line to win tonight, but then Scott Foster got put on the game, and Scott Foster is famous for the old extend the series move. And obviously, like you said, the NBA wants the star power of the series to go for more than just 4 games. But at the same time, Boston Celtics have been really good, and they've limited that star power for the Brooklyn Nets, really put Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in tough spots to score. Kevin Durant shooting just 36.5% from the field in the series. Probably the most mortal I've ever seen Kevin Durant in his career, where it's just like, he can't just go get a basket anytime he wants, which is a crazy thing to say. And I know you're on a specific prop today that hopefully that stays away from that. But I think like the Nets could win this game. Obviously, all these games have been relatively close, even though Boston's kind of pulled away at the end in Game 2 and Game 3. But at the same time, like the Nets have shot the ball really well. They shot over 50% from the field. They've shot over 41% from 3 in every single game in this series, and they still can't get a win. So what that tells me is they just simply are not the better team. And Boston's kind of been out for blood. They were out for blood in Game 3, so I wouldn't be surprised if they finish it off tonight.
So let me ask you this, because when we met the whole BetSided team in New York City a month and a half ago, we had a conversation. Who is the best pound for pound player in the NBA? And the consensus 2 guys were Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. But here we are, 2 pound for pound best basketball players on the planet facing a 4-0 sweep against the Boston Celtics. What happened? How does this happen? Explain it to me as a non-NBA guy. It makes no sense to me. How are they about to get swept?
The last guy we have to throw in that conversation too is Steph Curry. If we're talking pound for pound, 100% Steph Curry has to be.
I think you did make the Steph Curry then, to be fair.
But really, it's been Boston's defense. So not to get too analytical, but to break this down, what Boston's basically done is they switch everything. So the Celtics are one of the few teams that are able to do this because their point guard, Marcus Smart, is a bigger guard. And he's the defensive player of the year. So they are comfortable with Marcus Smart on just about anybody. And then Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, and now Rob Williams being back in the series, they're comfortable with all those guys on the perimeter. Jason Tatum has done a fantastic job on Kevin Durant, and Marcus Smart's done a really good job on Kyrie Irving since he dropped 39 in game one. So basically what Boston's done is they have taken away the Nets' ability to like screen guys open because they are just switching every single screen. They don't care where it is, if it's a pin down, if it's a pick and roll, they're just switching and they're trapping. And then they're not going to let Durant and Irving get to their spots. They're throwing doubles at them. They blitz them at different times in the series. They're basically daring the other Nets guys to beat them. And like I said, the Nets are shooting over 40% from three. It's not like the other Nets guys haven't made shots. Bruce Brown was fantastic the last couple games. Seth Curry had a good game in game two. And Goran Dragic had a good game in game two. The difference is the two stars, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, are probably playing some of the worst basketball we've ever seen them play, especially in a playoff setting. And that's all credit to Boston's defense. Their game plan was to take those guys out of the game. I know Kevin Durant had 28 points or 27 points in game two, but he also shot 4 for 17. He just shot a ton of free throws. Like, they have mucked it up. They've played a ton, like, hard physical defense. They've made it tough on those guys. And the problem for the Nets is for the Nets is they don't have the wing depth to kind of mitigate what Boston does on the opposite end of the court, where they're putting Seth Curry on Jaylen Brown in crunch time. And that's just a terrible, terrible matchup. We saw Jaylen Brown kind of take over at the end of game three, getting to the rim. So the fact that the Nets just really don't have the personnel to match up, their thing all year was they were just going to outplay you on offense. Well, Boston's defense has been so good that they can't do that anymore, and it's exposed the Nets' defensive flaws on the other end. So as great as Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are, credit to Ime Udoka and the Celtics team for coming up with an unbelievable game plan and executing probably better than we've ever seen anyone defend these two guys before.
Let's talk about the guy who's been probably the most talked about person on Twitter right now is Elon Musk. No, I'm just joking. Ben Simmons. What's going on? What's going on with Ben Simmons? The reports are saying he's going to play Game 4. Now he's saying he's not. He woke up with back soreness. What's Ben Simmons' deal?
Ben Simmons is not going to play the rest of this year, I don't think. I think he might have had a shot to play if it was 2-1. I think down 3-0, the Nets kind of see the writing on the wall. There's no reason to play him. If he actually is hurt, which I genuinely don't know if this is a mental hurdle for him, which obviously if it's a mental hurdle, he needs to get himself right. But at this point, like, there is no reason to rush him back 3-0. He hasn't played with these guys all year. He probably wouldn't be able to play more than 15 or 20 minutes, and you have no idea what your offense or defense really is going to look like with him in the game because he hasn't played all year. So at this point, I just think with the Nets being down 3-0, it's kind of just like mail it in. I'm sure Ben Simmons is going to get a fantastic fit off tonight on the bench in case it's the last game of the season. Going to wear some crazy colored pants, some nice shades. But yeah, I'm honestly wondering if Ben Simmons ever plays a game as a net. I wonder if they explore a possible trade for him this offseason or if they're going to be committed to keeping him long term.
Will he ever play again in the NBA, let alone the Nets? Who knows at this point, right?
It's a fair argument to make at this point. I think he does, but I would question if it's going to be with the Nets. If the Nets think they need to get more just role guys and depth, which is funny because they had that with Jared Allen and Karis LeVert and all the guys they traded away for James Harden, and now they put themselves in this position. It's like, oh, it'd be pretty nice if they had Jared Allen and Karis LeVert right now, but here we are, and they put all their eggs into the James Harden basket. It didn't work out, and the Ben Simmons basket has not worked out either so far.
One of the craziest things to me about the entire situation is, and you just mentioned, he showed up to the last game looking like Willy Wonka on the bench.
Yeah.
What are you doing, dude? You haven't played a minute for the team since they traded for you. They're on the verge of potentially getting swept, and you show up wearing Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat. What are you doing? Don't bring attention to yourself, man. Especially because everyone else on the bench is wearing black, so he's stuck out like a sore thumb. What are you doing? To me, that's even crazier than not playing and all the injury stuff and back soreness and ramping up and ramping down. What are you doing, dude? Just wear black.
It's a tough look. It's a tough look, man. It's almost just you gotta the lack of self-awareness almost. What, why? If you guys were up 3-0, maybe you get that fit off. You're not. You're down 3-0 now. So it's a weird move by him for sure.
Shout out to me for the Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat reference that I threw there.
That was a great reference, I was going to say.
Let's talk about best bet for the game, and then we're going to get into the bet that the viewers are going to make us place here. You already mentioned it earlier. Do you have anything else to add? You are on Celtics money line tonight.
Yeah, no, I kind of broke down everything why, but I just, as much as the Nets, like, you feel like they have to get a game, it's just like they should have had game 2. They were up 20 in that game. They didn't get it. They went up 8 in the fourth quarter in game 1, didn't get it. They hung around in game 3, ended up getting blown out at the end. At this point, I don't know what more they can do other than like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant start playing fantastic again. We've got 3 games of Boston like limiting that. So I think the Celtics end it. Get this series over with. As much as it sucks for the NBA, I think the Celtics deserve to get out of here with a sweep.
My best bet, you alluded to it earlier, you trashed on Kevin Durant, but I'm going to take Kevin Durant over 28.5 points tonight. Listen, I mentioned before, I'm not an NBA guy, so I can't really break it down with too many analytics, but I do have kind of one stat, and that's Kevin Durant averages in his career 29.5 points in elimination games in the playoffs. Listen, I don't know how motivated Kyrie Irving is. I'm not a big Kyrie guy. I think Kevin Durant is going to go down swinging tonight. Look at the last elimination game that he played in, which was last year against the Bucks. They ended up losing. Kevin Durant put up 48 points in that game. So this is not a guy that's going to roll over and just let the other team win. I think he's going to come out firing tonight. And then if you look earlier than that, his career, the last elimination game before that was against the Raptors in the final. Obviously, he got hurt like 12 minutes in the game. That doesn't count. And before that, he put up 34 points with the Warriors against the Rockets, which I believe was game 7. So
yes,
Kevin Durant has historically shown up in elimination games. He's averaging 1 point more than what his set total is tonight for points. I know Boston's defense is obviously good. He hasn't had a good series, but I mean, Kevin Durant's one of the best basketball players on the planet. I'll take him over 28.5 points tonight. I don't know if the Nets win, but I think he'll at least go down swinging.
I don't hate it. He might get a ton of free throws too because Scott Foster's on the game. We saw him take a ton of free throws in game 2. So that is always the saving grace for you there.
Love that point. Now, we did a community poll. We tweeted it out earlier today. We put it out on YouTube. Oh, actually, really quick before we do that, Ben Heisler chimed in. Ian, you wear a bacon suit. How are you going to give Simmons a hard time for his dress attire? Listen, I would not be wearing a bacon suit on the bench as my team's about to get swept, and I haven't played a minute for the team the entire season. So,
it's a very good point.
Good point, though, Ben. I should have wore the bacon suit on the debut show. So maybe that would have been a Ben Simmons move, I feel like. No, the Ben Simmons move would have been if me and you were doing the show, and then like Reed chimed in and didn't say a word the entire show, but he just sat there in a bacon costume. That would be Ben Simmons move.
That would be a Ben Simmons move. There you go.
Let's get into the poll pick, and I'm going to place this bet live. I don't think we have a graphic for this that's coming up. But our producer Joanne did tell us that the poll bet, the community is telling us to take Celtics. Is it Celtics +1? Are they a 1-point underdog tonight?
Yes, sir. Celtics +1.
There we go. Right. We are locking in. I'm putting it in literally right now as we speak.
Same here. Get it going.
To be honest, I don't love it, community. I kind of think Scott Foster might help the Nets win this one. But hey,
I love that the community's on my side. You know, that's what I feel. They're like, hey, Pete's taking Celtics money line. We'll take them with the points. It's fine.
And you guys certainly know better than me. So I'm riding the Celtics tonight. So I hope Celtics win. Kevin Durant needs to get over 28.5 points. So that's what I'll be rooting for tonight. I'll probably watch a game get a little NBA playoff action. But that just about wraps up our show. Once again, this is a brand new show we are doing Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, the Daily Betslip. Tomorrow, it'll be Ben Heisler and Reed Wallach on tomorrow's show, so tune in for that. And also, in 15 minutes, I'll be right back here going live again with Cody Williams to talk this week's Mexico Open, a little PGA Tour action. So go have a little snack, use a bathroom, grab a coffee, come back, and let's talk some golf. So from myself, Peter, any closing comments? You have 30 seconds.
I was just saying, make sure that you tune into your golf show because Ian, he's the most busy man in the world. So
that's true.
Keep watching.
But unfortunately, Peter, your guy Jordan Spieth is not competing this week. So he's taking a little week off, but hey, he got a win last week, or 2 weeks ago, so he deserves it. Thank you all for tuning in once again. Be sure to tune in tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern, same time, same place. Best luck with all your bets tonight. And I guess, hey, let's go Celtics.
Yes, sir.